All right, man, we're live. Chris, thanks for coming in, man. I know you're busy. I know we're all busy. Time's hard to get around for people, but thanks for coming on the show, dude.
Absolutely, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so hey, I love the setup. You got great lighting there. Studio. Looks good, man.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Simple is better, but
what are you doing right now? Like, what's your daily schedule? How do you wake up? What happens?
When I wake up, I go to Orange Theory Fitness, and then I go to work. It's pretty simple.
So work. What does work for you? What's your work day look like?
So work is from 8 to 4, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Take Fridays off. I lead a team of 20 people. We manage 85 of the top B2B podcasts in the world across 2 million listeners. And if I create every single day. I try to write, I try to paint, I try to draw, to keep my creative brain fresh. And being a leader has stretched me and grown me. I'm learning how to recover well. So that's the typical day.
So how'd you get into this? I guess, what were you doing prior to getting into just straight content creation and building your own business and it's SalesCast, correct?
Yes.
So what were you doing prior to that, and what kind of sparked the interest to want to do your own thing?
Absolutely. I quit a very high pressure sales job for an agency right after a Tony Robbins event. I also started my sobriety journey. I stopped drinking alcohol. It happened in a moment of clarity. And a friend of mine gave me an office space, and I felt a prompting from my God. I'm just going to make it, this is my journey, prompting from God to start a podcast, to start to share my story and testimony online with a webcam and a mic, and to just start to tell people, no audience, empty room, very uncomfortable. It was very hard. However, something interesting started to happen, is that others started to ask me, can I do it for them? And as I was developing new confidence in this skill set of content creation, I was also developing humility. Like, that I was recognizing that I am just starting. There are people that are 10 years ahead of me. Like, oh, what if I'm no good? What if nobody likes me? I had to fight all of these negative thoughts, right? That's what I was doing before. So this business happened supernaturally.
So you just started creating content for the most part and doing your own thing. Is that something you've always been accustomed to, or is that something you've struggled with and had to get better at as you've worked on it?
I've always been very creative. I knew my skill sets in middle school. I had a media lab teacher, who taught me how to use Photoshop, how to animate things on Flash, how to edit videos. And I could have just stopped going to school right then and there, because that's all I do all day now. And I guess I don't wish, but I think I could have entered the commercial world at an earlier age and started a different level of creation. I want to encourage more young people to start creating content, because it's a journey that will change their life. And the earlier you get started, the less bad habits the world has tried to stuff into you, the less lies other adults can tell you because they wish they had done something different with their lives too.
No, it makes sense. Are you a solo business, or do you have a team underneath you as well?
20 employees, and I have a co-founder.
Okay. Wow. So what was the co-founder doing when you guys took over this business or created this business?
He was one of my clients and realized that he was excellent at sales. So he's our CRO and he's co-founder now. And that was really interesting, is that he started out with a lower equity percentage while he had his other business. And as his activities increased, so did his equity. And then he sold his other business, and now we're pretty even. And that was after many lessons of entrepreneurship. Giving away too much equity in the beginning is not a good idea.
Sure. Yeah, kind of. That's that's all your cards, right? If you give away all your equity, that's kind of all you're bargaining with. Is he good at creating content as well? I'm assuming it's a he. I don't know.
Yeah, Colin's phenomenal at creating content, but what he is in terms of that sales spark, that marketing spark, that process and operations, like he was able to bring a lot of what he learned building a VoIP SaaS company and applying that. I've been in the agency world, started multiple agencies, been in creative roles my whole life. And so that was a really nice blend, and we complemented each other very well. Now his show crossed 1.5 million downloads, and we're doing a second one together. So to say he's good at content creation is an understatement. It's working really well.
With the 1.5 million downloads, is that for the year, for the total of the podcast being out, or is that like what you're getting on a monthly viewership?
Within a year and a half, that is the cumulative downloads for Colin's podcast, Sales Transformation.
It's really good, man, especially in the podcast game, because there's so many out there now. I think there's a little over 3 million podcasts or whatever. So it's really not that hard to get into like the top percentage of listeners, as long as you have some type of an audience. But to get in that 0.01%, where the top podcasts are, is very difficult. And I'd say if you're getting 1 million views, y'all are pushing up in that area. So what are some strategies that you have to grow the podcast? What type of advice would you give somebody that's creating content to just start putting stuff out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to find something at the convergence of skill, value, and passion. What can you become the best in the world at? What can you stay insanely passionate about? It's going to get your heart beating. And then what can drive economic value? At the center of that, I was recently talking to a guy who's a mentor and administrator at a technology startup accelerator. And he asked me, what kind of show should I do? There's so many different podcasts and shows and YouTube channels. What kind of content should I create? I said, all right, so what do you do outside of work? He says, I like to climb mountains in Italy. And he's currently living in Sardinia in order to do just that. I said, take all the lessons you learned from mountain climbing, apply it to the startup work that you do. And now you have all three of those things. Bingo. You not only are insanely unique, but you have the skills that you're learning in business, the skills that you're learning in mountain climbing, and you're for sure going to build a unique audience. No one can say that there's anything else like that out there. So my number one advice to a new creator is to not try and be like someone else. But do not if you need to copy some of the strategies that someone else has done, that's great. But if you truly want to stand out, the easiest way to do that is to literally be yourself. You may not know yourself yet, so you may have to get started with something that is totally different. But this is a process of self-discovery as you create. You see, we're used to consuming in our lives. We consume all the time. 80% of our content is consuming, unless you flip it. I would like to encourage you to eventually get to 80% creation and 20% consumption. That will change everything. It'll be the greatest lesson of self-discovery you've ever had. It will be the greatest thing for your business, and it'll be a ride of a lifetime.
No, I agree 100%. I wish I would have done it a little bit sooner. I really jumped on probably in January, starting to just kind of like put out my own stuff. I've had the podcast for a couple of years, but I've been doing like one episode a week on a Thursday. Now I'm trying to really jump in, getting guys like yourself on, other like-minded people that are putting out content, entrepreneurs, people in logistics, which is my space, and sales, and just trying to meet as many people as possible and bring those conversations.
Are you doing just one interview podcast per week?
No, I try to do a couple, but we have an in-studio show as well. So one in-studio show that gets posted every Sunday at 9 a.m. That's our consistent drop. And then I try to do 2 to 3 interviews per week like this.
Now, is the in-studio just Gunner?
So yeah, the in-studio is sometimes just me, but also we'll have a guest in there as well. I have a producer for the in-studio show.
Awesome. So what will accelerate your growth is more solo content and really short, 10, maximum 15 minutes. But we are noticing that if you're able to publish short, impactful, punchy content, this is increasing the episode consumption, the total consumption. If you go look at your Apple podcast statistics, you'll fall out of your chair because you'll realize that your longest episodes, maybe people are listening to 40% at best.
Yeah.
But if you shorten that and you have full consumption, what do you think that's telling the algorithm for your episodes? That's telling Apple this is an important show and they're going to show it to more people. The next step from there, I don't know if you ever listen back to your episodes or your content, but some game tape review will help you tremendously. And then the final piece is to increase frequency. With your recording schedule, you could easily be releasing a daily show. And this is what will grow your show the fastest is the daily compound interest. If you can be in people's feeds and attached to some sort of morning habit or afternoon habit, and it is shorter, more impactful, punchier, you'll skyrocket and you'll be in the top 1% easily.
That's a great idea. I've thought about that. I've thought about doing a daily show where I kind of pick a time and I just get on here and go live. And if either I have a guest or if I don't have a guest, just kind of do something from the office. That's a good idea. I might throw that in there.
Or to take your interviews or past content or whatever and find those 10-minute moments, 5 to 10-minute moments, and pull them out. And then simply record a 20-second customized intro to let the listener know what they're about to hear. So anyway, that's
I see that
one
a
of
lot.
our most bleeding edge suggestions right now that some of our top creators are doing.
So your number one tip right now for your top creators, or what you're seeing from your top creators, is to take 10 minutes of something you already have, put it out every day, and then give about a 20-second intro of you saying, "Hey, in this 10-minute clip, we talked about X, X, and X. Enjoy the video." That type of thing.
Yeah, because think about attention span and when someone's actually listening to a podcast. We don't really keep our listener in mind enough. Remember, they're driving to the grocery store, or they're working out, or they're in between meetings or something, and they are scrolling through YouTube looking for something. They're not going to select the 45-minute video. They're going to select the 6.5-minute video that addresses one specific thing that they are looking for to either be motivated, to feel better, or there's level up their knowledge and skills. And the more specific you can be with each piece, with that key point, the better.
Now, how do you see personal branding and content creation as far as like working for a company? So I'm in logistics. A lot of people that see my stuff are going to be in the supply chain logistics, brokerages like that. So how could you tell them that creating content for them while working at a corporation is almost like primary, almost like they got to be doing it? If social selling is going to be the next big thing, what would you tell those people to start creating content?
Right now, if you're not creating content, you're behind. And so I want to get you caught up, and you don't have to make it fancy. You see, my first tools for creating content were a Logitech webcam and a $30 microphone. You don't need you have a cell phone. You have everything at your fingertips to start to communicate and build network. You see, it's very easy to think that the social media platforms, if you have followers, that those are true connections. Are they true connections? If you post something, do your LinkedIn connections see everything? Do all of them see your post? Absolutely not. I have 13,000 followers, and maybe 500 to 1,000 will see it. And this is a huge problem, because this has turned our Rolodex, our contact base, the people that generate business for us, our lifeblood, into a product that is sold back to us for a monthly fee. What you have to do with your content is own your audience. Your podcast subscriber is going to get your content every time. If you have their email, if you have their phone number, the more information you can get on your audience, now you can start to build that into a community, and then you can own your industry. You want to know how to level up? take your contacts with you, because guess what? That relationship, that human being, that person that you've connected with, whether they're a follower, I don't like the word follower, I prefer supporter, or a guest that you've had on your show. I mean, there's so many net new people coming in from different places, especially if it's resonating. You take that with you everywhere you go, whatever job you have, whatever life circumstance you have. If you don't have 5 to 10 people that you can call right now that would pick up the phone and be excited to hear from you in your industry, you are doing it wrong. People are not a lead list. They are not an Excel spreadsheet. They are not something that you scrape off of their profile. They are a person that needs to be connected with.
No, you're 100% right. And like I said, I wish I would have started a little bit sooner. I was in the mindset, and I think a lot of people in a professional corporate mindset are, I can't say something. Maybe this might upset one of my bosses or upset someone above me, or I don't know if I actually have the right to have an opinion on this. If I work for this place, if this place might have an overall general other opinion. So I think people are scared to kind of just put stuff out there and be themselves. So you've obviously said if you're not creating content, you're behind. What would you say to the people that would say, hey, I'm scared to create content because I don't want to get fired or I don't want someone to look at me a certain way? Would you tell them something, give them a little bit of advice as far as that goes?
I would honestly say to that person, this is not a your company problem. This is a you problem. If you're worried that if you finally voice what you truly believe, that you're going to be ostracized by your company, you're working for the wrong company. Quit. And if you build an audience and you start to get other opportunities and they can't keep up with you, move on. You'll find something better. Companies can't even find people that are creating content and are creating influence right now. It's impossible to hire those types. So become like that. It's a you problem. Those are insecurities coming out. Like, okay, you start creating content, don't drop F-bombs. That might be unprofessional. Maybe don't talk about politics. Like, is it that hard? Like, find out what your company's core values are. If you don't know, ask the CMO. I'm sure they would love to tell you, or it's printed on the freaking wall behind you, and then do that. It's simple. And guess what? It's so much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. I mean, come on. No one owns your profile or your like that's impossible. If your stuff is professional and it's advancing the mission and the values of the company that you work for, they're going to promote you, not fire you. And if they would fire you for speaking your mind and having a voice in your industry, totally the wrong company to work for. They should be cheering you and rooting you on to see you on that conference stage, delivering a message that changes the industry. If this is not the right place for you now and you outgrow it, I guarantee you'll either you start your own thing or another company would love to have you.
Chris, I love that message. More people need to hear that. More people need to understand that they've got to be able to step out of their comfort zone and take a little bit of a risk and start putting out some content. And you're right, you do own your profile. Your LinkedIn profile is your new resume, and it's more important than a resume. It's better than a resume because people are actually able to see what you've done and how you interact with people and how people interact with you. So it's the best way to really get a good idea of how somebody is going to be working for you on a regular basis. And you can go back and check their activities and say, well, if he said he's going to do this 3 months ago, did he do it? Did it get done? Oh, it got done. Okay, that guy probably follows through and gets some things done. When did you start to realize you were grabbing a pretty good following? Pretty good supporters on LinkedIn. When did you start that whole process? Was this a few years ago, or just kind of gather them over time?
I knew that I was never going to have a resume in 2010 when I created my LinkedIn profile. I knew that was the future. I couldn't tell you exactly why, and I started to invest in the platform.
And that was
2010.
You just kind of had a hunch, just use your intuition on that one.
I was able to connect with anybody I wanted. I had high hopes, high ambitions, high dreams, and LinkedIn made it really easy to look the part. You know what? People say, oh, yeah, you don't fake it till you make it, whatever. I grew up where my great grandmother, she raised me most of my life, was a real estate agent. She taught me some basic principles. She said, look nice, wear nice clothes, drive a nice car, have a presentable image. You can never make a second first impression. You could call that superficial. You could call that material. You could call that surface level. But you know what? It works. If you look sloppy, people aren't going to trust you, because if you bring a client in a beat up Honda Civic with trash wrappers in the back, they're not going to want to work with you. So you do have to present yourself in a professional manner. I'm not suggesting you be fake. I'm suggesting you represent yourself in the best way possible, because you better believe there are others that are doing that. You have to do this. And it's not optional in today's world. It really isn't. You can't get by without embracing this in some fashion. You might as well get started now.
Yeah. Do you think people thought that this whole social selling and LinkedIn and social networking was just going to be a fad, and it was going to be for young millennials, and it was going to go away? What I don't think people understand is that, well, the millennials are growing up, and then the next generation is going to grow up, and the next generation is going to grow up, and all they're going to know is social interaction, social selling, social mediums. Like, that's all they're going to do. Like, they hardly even talk to people face to face anymore. They'd rather text you. They'd rather you direct message or do a video chat or a Zoom or something like that. So why do you think people are just so skeptical in going over to this way? Like, I know a lot of companies, a lot of people that I deal with, they just don't want to do this. Why do you think that is?
They're the same people that say back in my day. It's a reverence for nostalgia, thinking that the past is somehow better than the future. It's not. It's not. Embracing innovation is embracing change and human development and advancement. What is happening now is the most beautiful thing in the world, but you're missing the boat. You're missing it because you're stuck in your BS. Stop doing it. Maybe no one's ever told you to stop doing it, but I'm giving you permission now to stop doing it. You can make the decision right now to embrace and be a part of the future, or get left in the dust and hopefully maybe get a social security check when you're 65. I don't even know if it'll exist then. But what are you going to do are you going to make your life mean something, or are you going to sit on the sidelines and just be an observer? Or are you going to get out and be a part of the game and get dirty and mess up and break your arm and then let the arm heal and then come back stronger? I don't know why I was thinking of football, but like you can sit on the bleachers, or you can get out and play the game. I'd rather be playing the game. Actually, I'd rather be in front of others playing the game, running a little bit faster so that they follow the direction that I'm going. Because I know that I'm trustworthy. I know that I'm a leader. I know that I'm going to do things right. I might as well. I've determined that pushing myself to be better is the safest place. It's the most uncomfortable place, but it's the safest possible place to exist as a human, because the exact opposite of that is total death and destruction. I would rather be uncomfortable getting better than severely uncomfortable being left behind.
Yeah, and you got to fail to get better. Like, there's going to be failure when it comes to getting better, because that's the only way to learn. Like, every amateur or every professional was once an amateur. All the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. If you look at him, you can go to football metaphors. Tom Brady didn't even start when he first got in there. He's a 6th, 7th round draft pick. He barely played at Michigan up until his last few years, and look at him. He's 45 years old. He's had better stats in his 40s than he had in his 20s. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's the type of guys, the guys that stay at it, stay consistent. That's my little man over here with sports cards. But stay at it. Chris, where can these people find you? How can they get in touch with you? And I guess, is there your profiles, your websites? Just give all that information real quick before we get out of here.
Yeah, we practice what we preach. So we try and get you from the internet into our own community as soon as possible so that you are in our ecosystem. You can go to salescast.community, join our creator community for free. There's 550 other people just like you in there that would love to help you, encourage you, be there with you, push you. Did I mention help you? It is a great place to level up. Salescast.community, a completely free Slack group. You can DM me on there. But the great part is, if we ever have something extremely valuable to share, we don't have to go through the middleman. We can send it directly to you. You can send things directly to us. What a concept.
No, that's great, man. Hey, one question I ask everybody that comes on here, it's usually logistics people, but I want to ask you too because of the content creation. If you had one tip right now to give anybody, what's that one tip you're giving them?
Embrace the fear of rejection and be rejected. Get rejected. Simply change that no into a necessary stepping stone on the path. Do you need 5 no's? Do you need 10 no's? Do you need 30? Do you need 100? Do you need 1,000? How many times do you have to be rejected before you get to the other side of that? And celebrate it. I would like you to set the world record for how many times you fell down and got back up. But I guarantee if you don't get, you only fail if you quit. If you don't give up, your life will change. You will not be the same. And that's the point.
Dude, I love that. Chris, thanks, man. I know you're busy. I know you got things to do. Is there anything else you want to touch on before you get out of here?
No, sir. I'm really grateful for the opportunity and the time.
Hey, let's touch base again later on and see how you're doing. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Bye, Gunner.
See you, brother.